Breaking news from the Premier class, dear Motorsport-Magazin friends and Formula One fans. Haas has dismissed team principal Günther Steiner. The South Tyrolean must leave with immediate effect, the US racing team announced in a press release on Wednesday evening. In this press release, team owner Gene Haas speaks out, first of all thanking Günther Steiner for 10 years of hard work, but if you read through the rest of the press release, it becomes quite clear how this separation has taken place. Normally, you often read phrases like by mutual agreement in press releases like this, but in this case, it's not the case at all. Gene Haas says that the performance simply wasn't good enough, the team wasn't consistent enough. Of course, they slipped to last place in the Constructors' Championship last season, but the paddock gossip is saying that this may not be the only reason. It's been rumored for some time that Gene Haas and Günther Steiner are no longer on good terms, that there's a lot of money involved. We have to remember the structure of the team. Gene Haas, the billionaire, he once provided the money. He is the team owner. Günther Steiner, who persuaded Gene Haas to enter Formula One in the first place, was involved years before the actual entry in 2016. He did the development work, was team principal before there was even a Formula One team, then managed the team when they were in Formula One, but has no shares in the team. It is said that he didn't quite like that, and that is why there are rumors that there were disagreements between the two. There is no quote from Günther Steiner in the press release, so I'm curious to see if we'll hear anything more between Günther Steiner and Gene Haas in the future. Of course, Günther Steiner is not only known to hardcore Formula One fans. Thanks to the Netflix series Drive to Survive, he has become a global star far beyond the confines of Formula One and is well known. He is Haas's longest-standing employee, even years before they actually joined F1, but there are also other long-term employees. One of them is Ayao Komatsu, who you may have heard of before, but you will definitely be hearing more from him in the future, as he will succeed Günther Steiner as team principal. Most recently, the Japanese was engineering director, so you could say head of engineering. He had one of the 3 remaining places on the pit gantry, which shows that he was right at the top of the team hierarchy, so now he is taking over as team principal. Ayao Komatsu has been with Haas since 2016, when he moved over from Lotus together with Romain Grosjean to the newcomer. So he took a big risk and nobody really knew at the time how it would work out. He has 2 decades of experience in Formula One, starting in 2001 as a tire engineer at Bar, so he is someone who understands the sport, especially on the technical side, and that is particularly important to Gene Haas. He says, the team now have this engineering expertise in the team's management team, and therefore he hopes that they can take the next step and know how to use the resources a little more efficiently again. At the same time, there is also some restructuring in the team. There will be a COO, a Chief Operating Officer, who is supposed to keep team boss Ayao Komatsu's back free. He is based in Banbury. The team has a relatively complex structure. The headquarters, the administration, is based in North Carolina in the USA. Then there is the operations center in Banbury, where the cars are prepared. Numerous engineers are based in Maranello, where they develop the aerodynamics of the racing car and the car itself, i.e. the chassis is also manufactured by Dallara in Italy. The restructuring is, of course, also a very clear sign from Gene Haas that he wants to continue in Formula One. There have been rumors about this recently. The teams are now worth a lot of money. The values have shot through the roof, and that's why some people thought that Gene Haas might weaken for so much money and sell the team to someone who really wants to get into Formula One. Gene Haas says the whole thing shows that he has ambitions in Formula One, and a sale should therefore be pretty much off the table. Personnel matters are currently keeping Formula One pretty busy. Not only at Haas, we have more for you in a moment, but at Motorsport-Magazin too. Personnel matters are, of course, always a popular section in the videos. We are looking for reinforcements, including in the position of video host, but also in the editorial department. Why not take a look at the whole thing with an internship? Important. All positions are full-time and at our location here in Graz. All information can be found at jobs.motorsportmagazin.com. I promised you we have more personnel hacks on offer in Formula One, including at the FIA. Steve Nielsen, the sporting director, is leaving after less than a year with the FIA. Where to? It's not quite clear yet. He's a bit of a wanderer in Formula One, has been with almost all Formula One teams. Before he came to the FIA, he was employed by Liberty Media, the commercial rights holder, who until recently had a relatively large team on the technical and sporting side. However, under the new FIA president, things are no longer quite so simple. He says that the FIA is the sporting authority. They won't allow themselves to be messed with, which is why some employees were taken on by Formula One, including Steve Nielsen. But after less than a year, he's already finished. His successor is already in place. Tim Malyon, a Canadian with a lot of experience, most recently safety director of the FIA. Under him, it was also made clear Niels Wittig will remain race director in Formula One. And then there is another very interesting personnel matter. Tim Goss, the head of technology in the Formula department, is also leaving the FIA, and a successor has not yet been found for him. That's still not the end of the personnel news in the last few days. The colleagues from Formula HU IEE, Hungarian colleagues, have reported that Dr. Helmut Marko is to have extended his contract with Red Bull for a further 3 years. The whole thing was in limbo recently. There were some upheavals within the team, which of course were never confirmed by Red Bull, but they definitely existed. But Dr. Helmut Marko has come to an agreement with the Red Bull management team in Salzburg and will be the link between Austria and Milton Keynes for at least 3 more years. There is also news from Williams, not necessarily of a personnel nature, but on the technical side. James Vowles, the team principal, has recently been flirting a little with Cadillac engines. You may remember that the whole thing is now definitely off the table. Williams will be racing with Mercedes power units up to and including 2030. That has now been announced in 2026. There will be completely new regulations, on the one hand on the chassis side, but also on the power units. Electrification will be pushed to the top, and they have now committed themselves again in growth. They want to continue to do the whole thing with Mercedes. An interesting detail, but we don't know that yet, because James Vowles also talks about independence. The question is, how independent will Williams be? At the moment, they are not only sourcing the power unit from Mercedes, but also the gearbox. Williams had previously allowed themselves to buy in the gearbox for a long time, having developed and built it themselves for a very long time. Since 2022, they have been relying on the expertise of Mercedes high-performance powertrains in Brixworth. Whether that will still be the case in 2026, we don't know at the moment, but the topic is very explosive, because that's what a lot of the discussions about the future of Formula One are currently revolving around. Should the teams perhaps be obliged to build their own gearboxes, yes or no? This is probably one of the reasons why no agreement has yet been reached with Mercedes. Perhaps they really want to retain their technical freedom here in order to gain an edge in terms of performance. The Christmas season is over. I hope you have all received plenty of presents. Many of you have received a great gift, namely Motorsport-Magazin in the print edition. But now it's your turn again. You can of course still get issue number 94. We still have a few in stock. aber.motorsportmagazin.com. There you have all the information. By the way, there are different models. You can either get it for 1 year only or generally a current subscription. Then you can cancel it at any time after 1 year. By the way, I personally recommend getting this issue because there is an exclusive interview with Max Verstappen. There are also some very funny anecdotes about telephone conversations with Dr. Helmut Marko. It's definitely worth ordering issue 94 while it's still in stock. Then there's some news from Italy. More precisely from Monza, where major renovation work is being carried out at the Autodromo Nazionale. 21 million euros are being spent on renewing the circuit, including laying a new asphalt strip and renewing the curbs, but not only the track itself, but also the infrastructure, which was getting a bit long in the tooth recently, as anyone who has ever been to the Royal Park knows that it's not so easy to get there and back, and it's sometimes even a bit dangerous for the many pedestrians to use the underpasses. That's all getting better now. They're being separated between cars and pedestrians. There's also a new underpass, and the whole thing should be ready in 140 days. I'm curious to see if they can keep to the ambitious schedule. Of course, it is important to send a signal to Formula One because CEO Stefano Domenicali has already indicated a few times that Monza is no longer quite up to date. The contract still runs until 2025, and after that, of course, you have to see where you stay. Italy currently has 2 races with Imola and Monza, and Stefano Domenicali, who comes from Imola. So his heart is probably beating a little more in one direction, which is why the renewal is coming at the right time. It's still a while until the Italian GP. We will, of course, report to you whether the 21 million euros have paid off, whether it's really just a bit cosmetic, or whether a lot has improved. Until then, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and if you liked the video, leave us a thumbs up.